In a drunken moment, I said I was leaving him for my affair partner, and he snapped. Hello, Reddit. Been a long-time lurker on this app, but first time actually posting. I've never really been the type to share personal stuff online, so I'm honestly surprised that I'm sitting here typing this out. But I feel like I need to. Maybe sharing this will help me make sense of it all, and how to fucking save my marriage. My name is Alice, and I'm a 35-year-old woman. My husband, well, soon-to-be ex-husband if I don't stop it, is James, a 33-year-old man. We met in college, and it really was love at first sight. At least in the beginning, we clicked so well, like two puzzle pieces that just fit. People used to look at us and say we were the perfect couple, the kind everyone envied. We had that spark, that deep connection where we just got each other. You know the type, right? The kind of relationship that feels like it came straight out of a rom-com. James has always been the responsible one, the planner. He works in cybersecurity, and on top of that, he's a trust fund kid, so we never really had to worry about money. Life has always been good for us. Financially, we were set, and for a long time, I thought we had everything we could ever want. For most of our marriage, I was a stay-at-home wife. It wasn't something I ever planned on becoming, but it made sense at the time. James made enough for both of us, and he preferred it that way, having me at home while he worked. I didn't mind. I took care of the house, managed our social life, and for a while, it felt like that was enough. But as time went on, I started feeling restless, like something was missing, but I didn't know what it was. And that's where things started to go wrong. I began to doubt everything, including myself. I couldn't shake this nagging feeling that I had somehow lost a part of me. And in the process of trying to figure out who I was outside of being James's wife, I made the biggest mistake of my life. But before I get into all of that, I need to explain what led up to this decision. Because I know, looking back, how stupid it was. How I let someone else come between us and make me think that there was something more out there for me. I let my insecurities, my desire for something different, blind me to what I already had. Things were great between James and me until they weren't, until I fucked it up. For years, it felt like we were living the dream. We had the perfect relationship, at least on the surface. We traveled, had a beautiful home, and hosted dinner parties where friends would marvel at how in sync we were. People would tell us how lucky we were to have found each other, and I believed it. I really did. But over time, something started to shift, something I didn't even realize was happening at first. It wasn't a sudden change. There wasn't one specific moment I could point to where everything went wrong. It was more like this slow, creeping feeling that grew inside me, little by little, until it was too big to ignore. I felt stuck, like I had given up some part of myself when I married James, like I had lost my independence, my freedom, without even realizing it. And the worst part, I couldn't figure out why I felt that way. On paper, everything was perfect. We had a life that most people would kill for. James treated me well. He was loving, generous, and never once did he give me a reason to feel like something was missing. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more out there for me, something I had given up in the process of becoming James's wife. I started thinking back to who I used to be before we got married, back when I had my own job, my own sense of purpose, before I became the stay-at-home wife. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like James forced me into that role. I chose it. But after years of living that way, I felt like I had let myself disappear. I'd look at myself in the mirror and wonder who I'd become. I wasn't Alice anymore. I was James's wife. That was how everyone saw me, and eventually, it's how I saw myself too. My whole identity was wrapped up in being his partner, living his life, and I realized I didn't know who I was outside of that. And so, I started questioning everything. I began to resent the very life I had once been so happy with. I started thinking about all the things I could have done differently, all the dreams I had put on hold, the things I could have done, and the things I could have explored if I hadn't settled down so quickly. If I hadn't given up that part of myself to be with James. That feeling of missing something, of having given up too much of myself, grew stronger every day. It got to the point where it consumed me. It was all I could think about. I began to look for answers in places I shouldn't have. Instead of talking to James about what I was feeling, I pulled away. I convinced myself that he was the reason I felt trapped, that he was the one holding me back. But the truth is, it wasn't James's fault. It was mine. I was the one who let myself feel like I was losing my identity. I was the one who didn't speak up, who let the resentment build. And instead of dealing with it in a healthy way, I made a very stupid choice that would end up shattering everything we had built. Thinking that things would get better if I left James was the worst thing I ever thought. I see that now, but back then, I was blinded by my own restlessness, my own dissatisfaction. I convinced myself that if I walked away from him, from our life together, everything would magically fall into place. I thought I needed to find myself again, and for some reason, I believed that meant I had to get away from James. And that's where Mike came in. I met Mike at the gym. It was innocent at first, just casual conversations during workouts, the kind of small talk that doesn't mean anything. But somehow those brief chats started to feel like more. He was easy to talk to, and in a way I think that's what drew me to him. I was lonely, lost, and I needed someone to fill the growing void in my life. Someone to make me feel seen again, like I had an identity outside of being James's wife. Mike wasn't like James. He didn't have that constant air of responsibility, that calm, collected demeanor that James always carried. Mike was different, more spontaneous, more rugged, and in the beginning, that was what appealed to me. It felt exciting, like something new and unpredictable. We became fast friends, exchanged numbers, texted casually, and met up for workouts. Looking back, I can see how quickly that friendship crossed the line. But at the time, I didn't see it, or maybe I didn't want to see it. I started spending more and more time with Mike, convincing myself that it was harmless. After all, I wasn't doing anything wrong, yet. But deep down, I think I knew that I was playing with fire. I was using Mike as a way to escape the dissatisfaction I felt in my marriage. I was so consumed by my own frustrations that I didn't realize I was sabotaging the one thing in my life that had been solid. It's hard to explain, but I started feeling like James was too much. He was too romantic, too good, too involved in every aspect of my life. At a time when I was already questioning who I was, having someone who seemed to have it all together made me feel even more out of place. James was the kind of guy who would plan surprise date nights, leave little love notes around the house, and always make time for us. He adored me, and everyone could see it. But instead of appreciating it, I began to resent it. I know it sounds ridiculous. How can someone be too romantic, too caring? But that's exactly how I felt. I was suffocating under his constant affection, under the weight of this perfect life we had built together. And instead of seeing his love as a gift, I started seeing it as a burden. I was tired of it. I was tired of James. In my mind, I began to twist things. I told myself that he was smothering me, that I needed something different, something more. I started to believe that his love was holding me back from being the person I wanted to be, even though, in reality, James had never once stopped me from doing anything. It was all in my head, but I let those thoughts take root and grow until they consumed me. Mike became my escape from that. When I was with him, I didn't feel the pressure of being perfect or living up to anyone's expectations. He was fun, carefree, and most importantly, he didn't expect anything from me. I could be whoever I wanted around him, and for a while, that felt liberating. I convinced myself that this was what I needed, something different, something less predictable. I thought that by being with Mike, I could rediscover the part of myself I felt I had lost. But what I didn't realize was that I wasn't just running away from James. I was running away from myself. And no amount of time with Mike or anyone else was going to fix that. The more time I spent with Mike, the more distant I became from James. I stopped talking to him about how I was feeling, stopped sharing the things that were bothering me. Instead, I would keep those conversations for Mike. Slowly but surely, I built this wall between James and me, brick by brick, until there was almost nothing left of the connection we once had. And the worst part, James didn't even realize it was happening. He kept trying, kept showing up, kept loving me in the same way he always had, just trying so hard to fix everything. But everything wasn't fine, and I didn't want them to be fixed. I had already checked out emotionally. I just hadn't admitted it to myself yet. It wasn't until I found myself sitting across from Mike at a coffee shop, talking about our lives like we had known each other forever, that I realized how deep I had gotten myself into this mess. And instead of pulling back, instead of recognizing the danger, I leaned in. I told myself that Mike was what I had been missing all along, that he was the solution to the emptiness I felt. The more time I spent with Mike, the more he exposed me to a different world, one that I hadn't experienced in years, if ever. He introduced me to clubbing, to staying out late, to drinking more than I should have. Nights out with him became a regular thing, filled with loud music, crowded dance floors, and the rush of being surrounded by people who didn't know me or the life I had with James. At the time, I thought this was what I had been missing. I felt alive, like I was rediscovering some wild, free version of myself that had been buried beneath years of domesticity. I didn't see how destructive it was. I didn't realize that I was getting lost, not found. To me, it felt like I was breaking free from the constraints of my perfect life, from the expectations that came with being James's wife. Mike gave me a taste of excitement, of rebellion, and I drank it up like I was starving for it. The late nights, the parties, the drinking, it all seemed so thrilling, so different from the quiet, steady life I had with James. I thought this was the piece I'd been missing all along, the adventure, the chaos, the freedom. But in reality, I was spiraling, and I was too blinded by the adrenaline rush to see it. And the more time I spent with Mike, the more distant I became from James. I started to resent the life we had built together, the home we had carefully put together, the routines we had, the life that had once made me so happy. It all felt suffocating now. I avoided James whenever I could. I found excuses not to spend time with him, dodged his attempts at intimacy, and shrugged off his affection. I even started sleeping in a different room, blaming it on needing space. But the truth was, I couldn't stand being near him anymore. His love, his adoration, his unwavering devotion, it all irritated me to no end. James would come home after a long day of work, still trying to engage with me, still looking at me with that same tenderness in his eyes that used to make me feel so cherished. But now, it only made me feel guilty and uncomfortable. I couldn't bear to look at him because every time I did, it reminded me of what I was doing behind his back. And instead of facing that guilt, I pushed it down. I buried it beneath more nights out with Mike, more drinks, more poor decisions. I kept telling myself that this was what I needed, that Mike was what I needed. I convinced myself that James's love wasn't enough, that his kindness was boring, that his stability was a cage. And the more I convinced myself of those lies, the more I pulled away from him. I stopped being intimate with him entirely. Every touch felt wrong, like I was betraying Mike, even though it was James I was married to. I was already too far gone. By that point, I had crossed the line with Mike. We had become physical, and I was full-on cheating on James. What started as innocent flirtation had quickly escalated into something much more. I was sneaking around, meeting Mike at hotels, making up excuses for why I was coming home late. I had become someone I didn't even recognize, but instead of feeling guilty, I felt empowered. I told myself that this was my choice, that I was taking back control of my life. I was rewriting my story, or so I thought. But deep down, I think I knew the truth. I knew that what I was doing was wrong, that I was hurting James in a way he didn't even know yet. I knew that the life I was throwing away was worth so much more than the fleeting excitement I was chasing with Mike. But I ignored that voice inside me. I drowned it out with every new thing, every new high. It was almost like I was addicted to the rush of it all, the sneaking around, the secret texts. It gave me this sense of power, this false belief that I was finally living life on my terms. But the reality was that I was running away from myself, from my problems, and from the love that James had given me so freely for so many years. I thought that leaving James would somehow fix everything I felt was wrong inside me. I had finally reached my breaking point. I couldn't stand James anymore. Every time he looked at me with that same sweet, loving expression, I wanted to scream. I had grown to resent the very things that once made me fall in love with him. His kindness, his patience, his thoughtfulness. It all felt suffocating now, like I was trapped in a relationship with someone too good for me, someone I didn't even deserve. But instead of dealing with that, I convinced myself that he was the problem. I had been seeing Mike for months, and I was tired of sneaking around, tired of having to pretend that everything was fine with James when, in reality, I had checked out of our marriage long ago. I didn't want to be with James anymore, not privately, not publicly. I wanted Mike. I wanted to be with him openly, without having to lie or hide. The excitement I felt with Mike was addictive, and I didn't care about the consequences anymore. I was too far gone. In the beginning, I had stayed with James out of convenience. Let's be honest, leaving isn't easy. James provided me with a life that was comfortable. He had money, and our lifestyle reflected that. I didn't have to worry about bills or stress about anything financially because James took care of everything. And part of me was scared to give that up. Could I really walk away from the stability we had? Could I throw away the life we built together for something as uncertain as an affair?
No.
But then I realized that Mike wasn't exactly struggling either. He made good money. Not as much as James, but enough that I knew we could live comfortably if I left. It was like a switch flipped in my mind. Suddenly, the idea of leaving didn't seem so impossible. I wasn't going to lose everything. I was just trading one life for another. And with that realization, the final wall I had built around myself crumbled. So I made up my mind. I wanted to be with Mike, and not just in secret. I wanted to leave James and be with Mike openly. It felt like I had been holding on to my marriage out of convenience, staying because it was easier than leaving. But once I realized that Mike was financially stable and could take care of me, I finally felt like I had the strength to walk away. I was done with James, done with pretending that everything was fine. I couldn't wait anymore. I needed to end things with James and move on with my life. I had been dragging it out for too long, convincing myself that I couldn't do it, that it was too hard. I didn't even hold back. I didn't sugarcoat it. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have been kinder, more thoughtful in how I told him. But I didn't care anymore. I wanted out, and I didn't see the point in dressing it up to make him feel better. He deserved the truth, and I was going to give it to him, no matter how brutal it was. I said things I didn't even fully believe, harsh things, hurtful things. It wasn't like me, but in that moment, I felt like I needed to tear everything down to make my decision feel justified. I was fed up with his kindness, with how he always tried to make everything perfect, and I didn't hesitate to let him know. For the first time in a long time, James looked angry. He was always so calm, so collected. Even when we had disagreements, he would keep his cool. But now I had pushed him too far. I could see it in his eyes, the hurt, the disbelief, the frustration. This wasn't just another argument. This was the end. For the first time in what felt like years, we actually fought. I mean, really fought. There was yelling, accusations thrown back and forth. James demanded to know why I was doing this, why I was throwing away everything we had for some guy from the gym, and I didn't have a good answer. I couldn't explain why I was willing to destroy the life we built together. I couldn't justify my actions in a way that made sense, not even to myself. But I didn't stop. I was too far gone, too committed to this path. The argument escalated until finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed upstairs, grabbed a bag, and started throwing my things into it. I was leaving. That was it. I didn't care what happened next. I just wanted to be out of that house and away from James. I needed to get to Mike, to be with him, to start this new life I had convinced myself I wanted. James watched me as I packed, his face a mixture of shock and pain. He didn't try to stop me, didn't beg me to stay. I think by that point, he realized there was nothing he could do. I was gone long before I ever walked out the door. I left that night. I took my bag, got in my car, and drove straight to Mike's place. I didn't look back. I thought I had made the right choice. I thought I was finally free. Mike was genuinely surprised when I showed up at his doorstep that night. I hadn't told him I was planning to leave James. In fact, we hadn't really discussed a future beyond our secret meetups, but I thought I was making the right move. Mike hesitated at first, unsure of how to react to me suddenly staying with him, but he eventually accepted it. I assumed he would, after all. We had been sneaking around for months, and things between us had gotten pretty serious. At least, that's what I told myself. The next few days were a blur. Everyone in my life tried to reach out, tried to talk me out of what I had done. My family, my friends, they all urged me to reconsider. They kept telling me I was making a huge mistake by leaving James, and I refused to listen. I didn't want to hear any of it. In my mind, they were all conspiring against my happiness. It felt like they were choosing sides, and in my eyes, they were all siding with James. It infuriated me. I even started accusing my family, especially my siblings, of supporting James just because he was wealthy. Deep down, though, I knew that wasn't true. James had always been kind to my family. He went out of his way to help them whenever they needed it. They didn't love him for his money. They loved him because he was genuinely a good person. But I was too caught up in my own narrative, too wrapped up in justifying my decision, to acknowledge that. A few weeks went by, and I felt the weight of everything sinking in. Mike and I were together, but something wasn't right. Things weren't as perfect as I had imagined they would be. Still, I pushed those thoughts away, convincing myself that everything would fall into place eventually. Then, Mike and I went to James's house to collect the rest of my belongings. I dreaded going back there, knowing I'd have to face James again, but it had to be done. When we arrived, James was calm but firm. He allowed me to take my personal items, but made it clear that I couldn't take any of the expensive things he had bought me over the years: jewelry, designer bags, electronics. At first, I wanted to argue, but I realized I had no right to. James had been generous during our marriage, and he had bought those things for me out of love, but now that love was gone, and so were the things that came with it, I didn't fight him on it. Maybe I should have, but at that moment, I didn't have the energy to care. Material things didn't seem important anymore. I was just focused on leaving that chapter of my life behind and starting over with Mike, even if I wasn't sure what starting over meant. Looking back, I realize now how detached I was from reality at that time. I thought leaving James would solve all my problems. I thought being with Mike would bring me happiness. But in that moment, as I walked away from the life James and I had built together, I didn't know how wrong I was. A few weeks after I left James, I got served with divorce papers. I didn't care, though. I had made my decision, and I was too caught up in the whirlwind of my new life with Mike to be bothered by the legal process. It felt like just another step toward officially closing the door on my old life. But then everything changed. Mike got fired from his job, and things went downhill fast. At first, I didn't think much of it. People lose jobs all the time. But then I found out that James was at fault. I mean, it's hard to believe James didn't have a hand in it. Mike was a great employee, well-liked by his coworkers, and there was no logical reason for his sudden termination. The only person with the influence and motivation to make something like that happen was James. He worked in cybersecurity and had connections in high places. If anyone could pull some strings and get Mike fired, it was him. I was shocked then. I even confronted Mike in it. That was a petty and wicked thing to do. There was also another rumor that he had blacklisted Mike just so finding jobs would be hard for him, just to make our lives miserable, I guess. And it worked. Things went from bad to worse almost immediately after Mike lost his job. His mood shifted, and the carefree, fun-loving guy I thought I knew was suddenly stressed and irritable. You see, Mike was really bad at saving money. Since he had a very good job, he never thought he needed to put anything aside for a rainy day. He was extremely frivolous and wasteful with his spending, always wanting the latest gadgets or going out for dinner instead of cooking at home. So when he suddenly lost his job, it hit us hard. Within a couple of weeks, we could barely afford food. I remember standing in front of the fridge trying to make meals out of random leftovers while constantly worrying about how we'd pay the bills. It was stressful and frustrating, and it felt like we were in free fall. I tried to suggest budgeting or cutting back on non-essentials, but he just brushed it off, insisting he'd find a new job soon. Watching our savings dwindle was terrifying, and it felt like a ticking clock. I felt completely powerless, and it made me realize how stupid I was to depend on someone like Mike. About a few months after losing his job, he sat me down and said we needed help from my father. I was confused and asked him what he meant by that. Mike explained that since he hadn't been able to find work, we should ask my dad to help him get a job. That's when everything started to unravel. Mike had somehow gotten it into his head that I came from money. that my dad was wealthy and could pull some strings to get him hired somewhere. He thought I was a trust fund kid or something, and he had been operating under that assumption the whole time. We had a huge argument that night. Mike admitted that part of the reason he had been so eager to be with me was that he believed I had access to family money. He thought that once we got married, he'd be set financially. I was shocked. I tried to explain to him that I wasn't wealthy at all, that all the money I'd been spending during our time together had come from James. It was James who came from a rich family, not me. All the designer clothes, fancy dinners, and trips we had enjoyed were because of my ex-husband's wealth. Mike looked at me like I had just told him the world was flat. He couldn't believe it. Then he lost it. Mike was furious. He accused me of wasting his time, saying that he had been housing and feeding me all this time for nothing. He said he hadn't asked me to contribute to bills because he thought I was testing him, trying to see if he was with me for the money or not. He thought it was some kind of reverse psychology, like I was holding back to test if he was a gold digger. In reality, I just didn't have the money to contribute. I had been living off the remnants of what I had taken from my life with James, and now that was gone. That night was the first time I saw the real Mike. The charm, the excitement, the fun, it all vanished, and in its place was someone who was only ever interested in me because he thought I came with a big payday. It was like a punch to the gut. I realized I had left the most caring, loving man in the world for someone who only saw me as a meal ticket. Mike kicked me out, and that was that. He called me a freeloader, and honestly, I was shocked. It was like everything flipped overnight. One minute, I was living what I thought was the good life with him, and the next, I was on the street. I tried calling James, hoping to maybe patch things up or at least talk things through, but he had blocked me. No texts, no calls, nothing. I felt completely stuck. Then I reached out to my family, thinking they'd help, but they ignored me too. It was like I had burned every bridge. Finally, I had to call my friend Sarah. She was the only one who'd let me crash at her place, but she made it clear it would only be for a short time. I knew I was in trouble. I've been there for a couple of days, and I kept thinking about James. I don't want the divorce anymore. I'm done with Mike and all his drama. But how can I reach James when he wouldn't even talk to me? I felt stuck. I decided to post on Reddit because I'm hoping someone might have an idea about what to do next. I just wanted to explain to James that I'd messed up and wanted him back. But I don't know how to get through to him when he had shut me out completely. I need your advice. I want him back, but I don't know how to reach him. I'm ready to fight for what we had. What can I do? What should I do? I felt vulnerable, exposing my heart to strangers on the internet, but in this moment, it feels like the only option I had left. Update. Hello, Reddit. So, I absolutely got flamed on here. I used to think Reddit was a helpful app, but apparently not. You guys really went in on me. My post blew up way more than I expected, and got way more traction than I anticipated, but honestly, there was literally no useful advice. All I kept hearing was how crazy I was to think I could fix things with James, and that I should just accept the situation. The thing is, I don't want a divorce. How do I that to you guys? I finally got in contact with him today. Thankfully, he somehow unlocked me. We talked for a long time, but it was clear he didn't even want to hear my side of things. He kept saying he was done, that he was proceeding with the divorce. He told me he had already served me the papers and that there was no going back. I had made my choice. I even cried on the phone, but he still wouldn't listen to me. And I've reached out to my parents and siblings, begging them to help me talk to him, but there's been no budging on his part. He's completely closed off, and it's killing me. I really don't know what to do. I've been sitting with my thoughts, and I realize now that I miss him. I know it sounds ironic and stupid, especially after how much I mocked him, but I genuinely miss him. I miss everything about us, our late-night talks, his sense of humor, the way he always made me feel loved. It's hard to wrap my head around the fact that I drove him away with my words and actions. I never thought it would come to this. Now I'm just left feeling hollow and regretful, wishing I could turn back time and change how I treated him. I want to fix this, but I don't know how. I keep thinking of ways to reach out to him again, but I'm terrified of pushing him further away. I'm hoping that if I just keep trying, maybe he'll come around. But the reality is starting to sink in that I might have lost him for good. I don't want to be alone in this. I just want a chance to show him that I can change. I've learned so much in this short time, and I don't want it to be for nothing. I just wish he could see that. Any advice on how to approach this would be greatly appreciated, even if it's just to help me figure out my next steps. Thank you for listening. Update. Hey Reddit. So I haven't updated in a while because honestly I didn't feel the need to, especially after getting flamed so much on here. But I keep getting requests for updates, so I figured I'd just give you all a mini update on where I'm at. First of all, I'm currently staying at a homeless shelter. Yeah, you read that right. I really don't know what to do anymore. My family won't take me in. They keep saying I made my bed and should lie in it. It's heartbreaking to hear that from them. I thought family would support each other, but it feels like they're just throwing my mistakes back in my face. I stayed with a friend for a couple of weeks, which was nice, but I couldn't keep imposing on her. I felt bad, and eventually I had to leave. Now I'm in this shelter, and it's a tough adjustment. I don't have a lot of friends who are willing to let me stay with them right now, especially since I'm no longer with James and don't have any cash to throw around. It's like I've burned all my bridges. As for James, he's going ahead with the divorce. He doesn't want to listen to me anymore, and I've tried everything I can think of to reach him. I feel so helpless and lost. I really thought we could work things out, but it seems like he's made up his mind, and there's nothing I can do to change that. On top of all this, I've started job searching because I know I need to get a job if I'm ever going to leave the shelter. It's overwhelming, to say the least. I miss James so much, and I regret everything that happened. I messed up, and now I'm paying the price for it. I don't really know what my next steps are, but I'm trying to stay hopeful. I've realized just how much I took for granted, and I wish I could go back and change the way I treated him. I guess I'm just looking for some advice or words of encouragement. Anything would help right now. Thanks for reading. Update. Hey Reddit. So, I haven't updated in a while because I've been really busy. Life just kind of got in the way, you know what I'm saying? Plus, there's the fact that writing this post has been super hard. I kept writing and deleting, stalling, and just feeling all over the place. I miss James so much, and I've come to realize that men like him are so rare. I had a great thing, and I threw it away for something so stupid. I get a lot of questions about Mike, and just to clarify, I'm not in contact with him anymore. He blocked me after he kicked me out, and I blocked him back. Honestly, I've never looked back. I really miss James, though. I miss everything about him. The way he used to make me laugh, how he was always there for me, and just the comfort of knowing I had someone who cared. I regret messing everything up. Jesus Christ, I had it so easy, and I threw it all away. As for the divorce, it's finally been finalized. It took a while to get to that point, but in the end, it didn't even take an hour in the courthouse. I walked away with nothing. Not that I'm surprised. We were only married for 4 years. All of his properties were his premarital assets, and since we didn't have kids or any debts to split, I didn't qualify for alimony or spousal support. It's a tough pill to swallow. My family is still distant with me. They've pretty much picked my ex over me, which is hard to deal with. It feels like I've lost not just my husband, but my support system as well. On a slightly positive note, I do have a job now, so I'm not completely jobless anymore. It's a small victory, I guess. I'm also staying in a really tiny studio apartment. It's small, like really small, but it's mine. And that's something I'm trying to appreciate. It's okay for a first place, I guess, but sometimes it feels lonely. I'm managing, but every day I regret my choices. I wish I could go back and do things differently. I keep hoping for a way to make it all right, but I'm not sure how.
Life is unpredictable because a single mistake has ruined my life. Nothing makes sense to me anymore. How I wish I could turn back the hands of time. How I wish I never attended the family Christmas party. How I wish I never got drunk that very night. But it's too late now. Life seems to be turning against me. It's a very painful story, and I don't know how to tell the story without feeling very bad. The horrible mistake I made has destroyed my whole life. Hi guys, my name is Cynthia, and I'm a 28-year-old hairdresser. I'm married to a pilot. His name is Scott. Scott and I have been married for 2 years now. We met 2 years ago, and ever since it's been a fairy tale until I made a terrible mistake a few months ago. Scott is every woman's dream man, handsome, tall, kind, and caring. Sometimes I wondered what he saw that made him fall in love with me. Scott's dad didn't want him to get married to me. He tried matchmaking him to different ladies, but Scott refused and chose to be with me. He practically changed my life within a short period. He is a perfect gentleman. I always describe him as my soulmate. He is one of the best things that has ever happened to me. That's why I can't forgive myself for accidentally kissing his dad. Don't judge me, guys. I was drunk. Everything happened so fast that I don't even know how it happened. It still feels like a dream. How could I make that kind of mistake? Scott's dad has always been the villain in our love story. I will be referring to him as Mr. Alex, not his real name though. I want to keep his identity private because he is a popular businessman. Mr. Alex, Scott's dad, never liked me. He always told me I wasn't good enough for his son. He always called me a gold digger who came to reap where I didn't sow. He always wanted Scott to marry one of his friend's daughters, but Scott declined. Mr. Alex never misses any opportunity to remind me how low class I was, and I'm not worthy of being his daughter-in-law because I wasn't from a rich home. My parents were just retired civil servants. Mr. Alex never misses any chance to tell me he doesn't like me. That's why it hurts so much that I let my guard down around him. I can't even believe I kissed him. It still feels surreal. Thinking about it now, it was disgusting. Everything happened so quickly. Scott and were invited for his family Christmas party. Scott was very excited because his father stopped talking to him ever since we got married. Mr. Alex went as far as not attending our wedding. So you can imagine how thrilled Scott was when he got the invitation to the party. He was also asked to bring me along to the party. Initially, I didn't want to attend because I know I will not be welcomed, but Scott insisted we attend. He told I might never get this type of opportunity again and that his family is beginning to accept me. He said I should use this opportunity and get to meet everyone because it's the holidays and everyone will be around. I reluctantly agreed to attend the party, but I wished I never did. I wished I stood my ground and just slept at home on that fateful night. I love Scott so much, I could never tell him no. Scott has been through a lot because of me. At a point I was all he had, because his family disowned him because of me. I know how much me attending the party means to him. He has always wished for me to get along with his family. Scott was so excited about the party that he cleared his schedule so we'll be able to attend the party together. He bought me expensive dresses, shoes, and jewelry to complement the looks. We arrived at the party early because he wanted to introduce me to everyone before the party started. He introduced me to his relatives, friends, and colleagues. Everyone was excited to see me except for Scott's immediate family. His mom always accused me of breaking the family and taking away her only son. His sisters never liked me just like their father. So they were all cold towards me. They barely answered my greetings. I, on the other hand, decided to just enjoy the party because I got tired of trying to get their attention. I got so carried away that I got so drunk. Everything was going so well until I went to the restroom. Scott never wanted me to go alone, but I convinced him I wasn't that drunk and that I could take care of myself. I was lying, guys. I didn't want him to miss out on the family reunion. He was so happy catching up with his cousins that I didn't want him to miss anything. It's been a long time since I saw Scott that happy. That's why I didn't want to ruin it for him and decided to go to the restroom alone, even though I was very drunk. On my way to the restroom, I met with Scott's dad, and he asked me to come to his room for a brief chat. I told I wanted to use the restroom, and he told me that he has a toilet in his room and that I could use the one in his room. I was reluctant at first, but I still followed after, imagining how happy it would make Scott when he found out I had a talk with his father. I followed Mr. Alex to his room, and surprisingly, he didn't have any meaningful things to say. He was just blabbing about how I took his only son from him. The next minute, he started caressing my hair, and for a minute, I forgot myself. And the unthinkable happened. I kissed him, guys. I don't know what came over me. I don't know why I didn't leave the room when I found out he didn't have any meaningful things to say. I don't know why I didn't stop him from caressing my hair. I was so drunk that I didn't have control over how I was acting. For a second, I thought Mr. Alex was Scott. I guessed it was the alcohol. I ran out immediately. At the moment, I knew I had messed it up. What surprised me is that Mr. Alex didn't try to stop me from kissing me. He just stood still with his hands raised up. The reason I followed Mr. Alex to his room in the first place was because I thought he wanted to apologize for how he had treated me for the past 2 years. I didn't know he was just setting me up. I ran back to the party room as fast as my legs could carry me. Scott was already looking for me everywhere. He asked me where I was coming from, and I told him I was coming from the restroom. He said he came to the restroom, but I wasn't there. I had to lie to him that I went outside briefly for some fresh air. Somehow he knew I was lying. I could tell from how he was staring at me. Everything happened so fast that I didn't even have time to think about what had just happened. I just made the biggest mistake of my life. I can't believe I kissed my husband's dad. How do I bring myself to explain everything to him? What would happen after he found out I kissed his dad? All these were the thoughts running through my head. I didn't know what to do. I was confused and devastated. All through the rest of the party, I wasn't myself, and Scott noticed. He asked what was wrong with me, and I lied to him that I was just tired. My heartbeat increased when he asked why my lipstick was a mess. I had to come up with something quickly. I told him I bumped into someone on my way from the restroom. Everything happened so fast that I didn't even put myself together. Scott saw how uncomfortable and disorganized I was as asked, we leave the party immediately. It was a silent ride back home. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept wishing I never went to that party. I couldn't believe everything that had just happened. It felt like a dream. I thought everything would go away in the morning, and that I was just having a bad dream, but I was wrong. It was in the morning that the reality of what I have done hit me. I felt bad, Scott. I couldn't believe I betrayed his trust. He literally fought with his entire family, especially his dad, just to be with me. I felt bad for betraying him. He doesn't deserve this. I felt terrible, guys. I wanted the ground to open so I could disappear. I wanted everything to just go away, but how? I wanted to run away because the more I saw Scott, the more guilty I felt. I decided to confess everything to Scott and be free from guilt. While I was planning on confessing everything to Scott, I got a call from Mr. Alex, Scott's dad. He asked me to come and see him alone if I wanted to save my marriage. I didn't want to go, but at that point I was desperate. I told Scott I wanted to hang out with my friends and went. He asked us to meet in a hotel, but I insisted we must meet in an open place. He asked me to meet him in the office then. I arrived at his office and I met him in a meeting. His secretary asked me to wait at the waiting room and that the meeting would soon be over. After the meeting was over, Mr. Alex called me in. He had this mischievous smile on his face. I have never seen him smile before. He never smiled at me before, so it felt kind of strange. He offered me coffee and I refused. I asked him why he wanted to see me, and he said he wanted to save my marriage. He asked me what I intend to do after what happened at the Happy. I told him I was planning on confessing everything to Scott. He told me I shouldn't do that, because Scott might never forgive me. He told a man can lose everything but never his ego, that Scott's ego would be broken when he finds out I kissed him. He gave me 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't confess everything to Scott. He told me telling Scott everything will break their family, and how he misses his son and he doesn't want to lose his only son. He said he wanted his family back and that his family would never be complete without Scott. He practically begged me not to confess to Scott. He also told me he has accepted me fully as his son's wife, as he is tired of fighting Scott because of me. He told me he sees how happy Scott is with me, and nothing else matters to him than his only son's happiness. Everything he was saying felt too good to be real. I couldn't believe my ears. I've always dreamed of the day Mr. Alex would finally accept me as his daughter-in-law, but I never envisioned it to be this way and manner. I was happy and sad at the same time. I wasn't comfortable with the idea because Scott and I promised to never lie to each other. We promised to always tell each other the truth, so I was a bit reluctant. Mr. Alex promised me that no one would hear what happened that day if I decided to follow his advice. I agreed to keep everything to myself and not confess to Scott. That was another wrong decision. I wished I never listened to Mr. Alex. I wish I just followed my instincts and confessed everything to Scott. I became a shadow of myself. I was always lost in thought. The guilt was eating me up. One day, Scott got a call from his dad. He was so excited because that was the first time his father was calling him in 2 years. His dad invited Scott and I over for dinner at their family house. Scott was excited. He was jumping up and down like a baby that was handed candy. He asked me to get ready so that he would pick me up after work. I didn't want to go because seeing his dad would make me relive that bad memory. But I didn't want to say no either because Scott would suspect something is wrong. He has already started suspecting me. I didn't want to add to it. So I decided to go to the family dinner with him. We arrived at the family dinner, and everyone was hostile to me as usual. Mr. Alex ignored me and went straight to embrace Scott. He told him he had an announcement to make after dinner. For some reason, I felt uneasy. Deep down, I knew whatever announcement Mr. Alex wanted to make wasn't going to favor me. At that moment, I just wanted to confess everything to Scott, but he was busy having a discussion with his mom. I didn't want to interrupt them because I knew how much they missed each other, so I waited. The next minute, Mr. Alex stood up and nothing prepared me for what happened next. The embarrassment I got that day is still fresh in my memory. The next thing I saw on the TV screen was a video of me kissing Mr. Alex with his hands raised up. While I was still trying to make sense of what was happening, the conversation I had with Mr. Alex at his office was also played, but the conversation was doctored. It was at that moment I realized that everything was properly planned. The video only showed when I kissed Mr. Alex, and not the beginning of everything. It was then I understood why he raised his hand while I was kissing him. He was just trying to pass a message. Even our recorded conversation was doctored to suit the narrative he was trying to pass. Mr. Alex went on to lie to everyone about the event that transpired between us. He told them how I tried to seduce him because I wanted money, and how I came to his office the following day to beg him not to disclose what happened to Scott. Guys, I was too stunned to speak. I couldn't believe my ears. Scott was speechless. I saw tears in his eyes and I felt sorry for him. Everyone looked at me with so much hate. I felt so sorry for Scott. I ran to him to explain everything to him, but he refused to listen. He left angrily. I tried to run after him, but Scott's mom stopped me and slapped me. He asked me why I had decided to destroy his poor son's life, and that I even went as far as kissing her husband. She threw me out after raining curses at me. I was mute all through. I couldn't even utter a word. I took a cab and went home. To my greatest surprise, Scott wasn't at home. I waited for him all through, but he never came home that night. The following morning, he arrived and started throwing my things out. I tried explaining everything to him, how it actually happened, but he didn't believe me. He said he has seen enough evidence, and I cannot manipulate him any longer. I told him how everything happened, but he still paid deaf ears to everything I was saying. He told me how he regretted the day he met and wished he never went against his family for me. I explained to him how his dad set me up and he is trying to break us apart. He refused to listen. All efforts to calm him down were in vain. He even went as far as setting my things on fire. He burnt all my clothes and documents. He told me he was done with the marriage and I should get out of his life for good. While I was still trying to plead with him, the lawyer arrived with divorced papers and I was forced to sign the divorce papers. Scott threatened to leak the video on social media if I don't sign the divorce papers. I got scared and signed it. After signing the divorce papers, he threw me out of the house and threatened to ruin my life completely. I left the house empty-handed. He didn't allow me to go with anything. I was practically chased out like a cheap prostitute, and I tried reaching Scott severally, but he never gave me a listening ear. I got so tired that I finally decided to accept my fate. I decided to go squat with my friend till I'm able to stand on my feet again. I was penniless. Scott made me stop working immediately after our marriage. He provided everything I needed, so I didn't have a single penny to my name. I got the biggest shock of my life when my parents called me crying that they were homeless. Apparently, Scott had chased them away from the house he bought for them a year ago. Listening to my parents cry over the phone broke me into pieces. I didn't know what to do. My parents sold their old house 2 years ago so they could pay for my brother's tuition. This was before I met Scott. My parents were retired civil servants. They couldn't afford to train my little brother and sister at the same time, so they had to sell their house and move to a shared apartment. A year ago, Scott gifted my parents a newly built house. How could he chase them away from the house he willingly gifted them? At that point, I started developing a strong hatred for him. How can he ruin my life because of a single mistake? Not just my life, but he is also ruining my parents' life. Scott also did another terrible thing. He stopped paying for my brother's school fees. My brother was in an aviation school. His fees were expensive. That was why my parents sold their house in the first place. Scott started paying my brother's school fees after we met and promised my parents that he would make sure my brother graduates, because my brother was at the verge of dropping out before Scott stepped in. He also gives my siblings pockets money. He also canceled the knee surgery he booked for my dad and took his back. One by one, he started destroying everything he has ever done for me. I couldn't believe he was capable of such an act. If someone had told me Scott was that heartless, I would have bet with all my heart that it was a lie. Nothing made sense to me any longer. Everything escalated quickly. I didn't know what to do. My parents were homeless. My brother has been sent off school because Scott informed the school authority he wasn't going to be his sponsor any longer. My parents had to move back and continued living in a shared apartment. Life never made sense again. Everything felt like a dream. I decided to go look for a job in a saloon, but the pay was so little. I decided to just accept the job when I got tired of moving around and looking for a job. Few months later, after the divorce was finalized. Sorry guys, I forgot to mention. I didn't get alimony because Scott and I signed a prenuptial agreement before the wedding. I was the one that suggested the idea because I didn't want to seem like I was getting married to him because of his money, but I still regret that decision till today. It was a foolish move. So, a few months later, Scott married again, this time to the lady his dad chose. I heard the lady is the daughter of Mr. Alex's friend. Guys, I'm sobbing as I'm writing this now. My life never remained the same after that Christmas party. I wish I never got drunk at that party. I couldn't believe my marriage of 2 years had ended and that my husband is married to another woman now. How can Scott punish me for something I didn't have control over? I was drunk. It wasn't a conscious decision. But I don't blame. He only acted based on what he saw. I still blame myself for everything that happened. I take full responsibility for everything that happened, deep down in my heart. I know Scott would have forgiven me if I'd confessed everything to him immediately. I mean, he saw how drunk I was. He would have understood I was under the influence of alcohol. Everything wouldn't have gone so bad if I hadn't listened to Mr. Alex's stupid advice. A chameleon can never change. I don't know how I foolishly fell into his trap. When Scott and I got married 2 years ago, I never knew a day would come when we would get divorced. I thought it was going to be a forever thing, so that one would have thought that Scott's obsession to destroy my life would stop after he got married. But that's wrong. One day, I woke to my phone binging with notifications. My battery got flat in the process that I had to power it up. I opened my phone and I saw different tags. Apparently, Scott and his family had uploaded the video of me kissing Mr. Alex. The video was on every blog. People that knew me were calling me. The video was tagged the gold digger that tried to seduce her father-in-law. Of course, the face of Mr. Alex was perfectly covered, while mine was exposed. Everyone was calling me names and judging me. It got so bad I had to resign at the hairdresser salon because people started recognizing me and mocking me. I'm leaving every single day in regret. Update. One would think that I have suffered enough, right? Well, guess what, guys? That's not true. People would come to the saloon just to abuse me and call me all manner of names. Tears became my food. I cried to bed every day. I never thought Scott was serious when he vowed to destroy my life. I thought it was just empty threats. I never knew he was going to upload the videos. I got so tired of everything. I couldn't breathe very well. I was exhausted. I thought everything was just a horrible nightmare and that I would soon wake up. But that never happened. Every day, I only prayed for strength to live. My parents and siblings were the only will I had to live. I wish Scott nothing but the best. I know he acted out of anger, and his anger is justified. He only acted based on what he saw. Maybe if I had confessed everything to him, things would have been different. But I know it's too late now. Even if Scott finds out the truth today, I know we can never be together again, because he is already married to someone else. Maybe we were never really destined to be together forever. I will cherish the few years of our marriage forever. I chose to remember only the good because he is the best thing that has ever happened to me, and our marriage was beautiful while it lasted. That's my story, guys. I hope we learn from it. Don't ever keep anything from your partners, and don't ever get married to anyone that the parents don't approve of you. It will always end in tears. At the end of the day, those people will make sure they frustrate you in the marriage. Another free advice is please never sign a prenup, ladies. Please don't be a fool like me. Lowell, thanks and goodbye.